Okay, welcome everyone to this week's Ask Us Anything. Has anyone got any pressing news before we move on to some announcements? The first one of which is Tesla's announced shareholder meeting with the interesting background, which
NOwires.
a lot of people who have a relationship or who know about a company called Amprius are very interested in that background because they're thinking it might have some cryptic reference to silicon nanowires that Amprius are specializing in. And it also just so happens that they recently, by coincidence, moved their headquarters close to Tesla's Roadrunner battery pack building in Cato, is it Cato Lane? Something like that.
I had a look on Google, Harold. They're literally right across the road from Tesla, but right next door as well, because Tesla's got a few lots. They're basically surrounded by Tesla.
Yeah, apparently Amprius have said that, well, the reason why they left their previous place was effectively because their lease ran out and they simply moved basically because of that. So I guess you could sort of say, well, maybe it's just one of those marvelous coincidences. But then when you do look at the background of the nanowires, well, what people have thought of could be nanowires, then it kind of makes a very interesting backdrop. And I guess Tesla and Elon in particular have got a reputation for teasing before events. So I guess it'll be just something else to look forward to in that meeting, which is only 28 sleeps away, or at least for us. So definitely something to look forward to. We've also seen that Model 3 in China has had a Chrome delete application made. So it looks like possibly that might happen to Fremont as well, which sort of makes sense because it aligns with Tesla's reduced emissions policy. So that could be interesting for future Model 3 buyers here. And I guess everyone saw in the UK a Tesla owner who was using autopilot through one of the UK's notorious roundabouts got reprimanded by the cops for using unauthorized self-driving features that aren't supposed to be used in the EU. And that's still is.
I think he just got a warning, a slap on the
head. He got a warning, yes. Yeah, not to use it.
I didn't hear about that. What, do you know whereabouts it was in the UK?
Yes.
I can find out.
It was, you would know the roundabout, Richard. Here we go. It was.
That's with an S from memory.
Yes. Swindon. No, it's a Swindon roundabout.
Oh, okay. Over that way.
Yes. So
west of London, about 2 hours.
There was a quote from the Wiltshire Police Department that said that the UK's current legislation does not allow for their self-driving cars use on public roads.
He was in control, so
Richard,
yeah.
Richard, but then, you know what the problem was?
Go on.
He couldn't find the Brexit.
I hope you haven't been watching my Twitter feed.
That's where I learn everything.
I found Brexit Lever Central. I'm in amongst it. It's a lot of fun.
So apparently the spokesman later said that the driver of the YouTube video, or driver in the YouTube video, is breaking the law when he allows the car to take control, as he is not in proper control of his vehicle, and if stopped by officers would be asked to attend court.
Interesting.
However, you know, I guess you could call that a shot across the bows. I would have thought that any features that weren't allowed in the EU simply would be unavailable. So I guess it gets to the nuance of what you were doing at the time and who saw you doing it, and probably how well a car did it while it was attempting to do it.
That's not directly applicable to Australia, though, is it? Because
no,
everything that's enabled on the cars here is my understanding.
Except, I guess, I think it is technically the case here that you are supposed to have at least part of your hand on the steering wheel, even though the car functions without it. So I guess if you did sort of go fully hands off and put them on the side window, I guess that's inviting attention. So I guess technically you could say maybe the car should always demand a hand touching the wheel, but I mean, the nag is pretty often these days. So I guess it gets to situation, doesn't it? So this guy was deliberately doing videos on YouTube highlighting how well it was or wasn't doing this roundabout. And I guess the police were not. I mean, I guess in one sense, you always have to have control of the vehicle regardless of how you're operating it. And I guess they deemed that he wasn't.
The police have YouTube, who knew?
Yes, indeed, they can see your video, and it's kind
Crazy.
of difficult to plead not guilty when that's kind of on film. But
yeah, it's always the one or two which cause the problems for the majority, I guess. I was reading that in the UK, they were already starting to legislate for self-driving vehicles and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's pretty surprising that they would pick up on things like this now. So anyway, it's always a handful of idiots who cause the problems for the rest. So
exactly, and you've had people hopping in the passenger seat for brief periods of time and things like that, and doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things on video. So so be it. So has anyone else got any news or anything that's happened? Nigel, you're not in Perth. Oh, you're not on mic either. Can't hear you, Nigel.
Has anyone got the new update?
No, can't hear you yet. New updates. Which one's that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so go on, Nigel.
I'd plugged in the speaker. Yeah, we're in Geraldton, and on Monday afternoon we were parked down at the waterfront, went for a nice long walk, came back, and as we were getting in the car, some guy jumped out of his car, came running over, and he says, "I've been parked here for ages waiting for the owner to come back."
Aww.
And your car.
He says, "I want to buy one." So yesterday evening, I took his wife and him and his kid out for a test drive.
Brilliant.
Drive it. And he was wetting himself with excitement. And I think we've convinced his wife that it might be a bad idea to let her husband buy it.
Good move. I seem to recall talking to someone at the Como car show last year.
Yeah, I wonder who that might have been.
Someone who I think almost ordered it that afternoon.
Yes. He might have, yes. And talking of the Como car show, isn't that on again in October?
Indeed. The 4th of October, I think, ish, roughly, which actually coincides with our casual meetup. So
as per has been on the website for a couple of weeks, so clearly no one cares about my website.
That's where I saw it, Ken.
Yeah, I'm sure Harold will get around to sending out a very exciting email too.
Yeah, so
Harold will bite his lip about emails at the moment.
I can bring my Model 3 up if you like.
Hey Nigel, you should have sold him your Model 3 for a premium. And so
no, this guy was actually complaining the fact that second-hand Teslas are costing almost as much as brand new ones, so going to buy a new one.
Yeah, might as well.
There was a good report recently which showed that the Model 3 only loses 10% of its value after 3 years. so which was touted as being the lowest depreciation rate of any car, compared to 39% for an average.
Yeah, he quoted that. He's done a lot of research by the sound of it.
Speaking of which, the Australian dollar has recovered a lot. It's been hovering at 72 cents, so we should expect that Tesla will bring down their prices of the 3s, S's and X's, for that matter. So this gentleman might get a good deal.
Yeah, I don't think he can order it until next year because he's paying off some Ford Ranger Ute thing.
Okay. Well, he should sell it now before it loses even more value at a faster rate than a Tesla. Now, speaking of some older cars, we've also gotten news that cars who have ordered full self-driving can basically get their computers upgraded from Q1 2021, which is good news. Mm-hmm. All the Model 3 owners need not worry because all your cars are happily hardware 3, but some S and X owners have got hardware 2.5 or 2. And like I said, they can basically get their cars upgraded early next year.
Who's that?
Someone's feeding back. Yeah, so that's some good news. There's no news yet on MCU2 upgrades. That's still hopefully later on this year, perhaps. But unfortunately, MCU1, you'll be staying. Sorry, Hardware 1 cars will be staying with that configuration. Any other news? Anyone around?
My mum's Powerwall 1 got upgraded to a Powerwall 2 today in the UK, so that's exciting. I now have more stats to look at.
So that's a 1 sitting alongside the 2, the new 2?
No, actually, there was an issue with that. So the Powerwall 1 was a DC connected battery, and when they've tried it with other customers, what would happen is the DC battery would essentially just try and dump into the AC Powerwall 2 because it just sees it as a load. So yeah, so there was some problems with that. So basically, yeah, they're not compatible with having one. So my sister has actually moved had the Powerwall 1 moved to her house that they've just bought. So she's probably going to try and get the older Solar Edge inverter or an older inverter to work with it. And then yeah, Mum's got the Powerwall 2. Which even in the UK on the south coast was 80% full at midday. So yeah, so yeah, I think she's got there's a 3 and a 3.7 kilowatt inverter, so she's got it's a pretty decent sized system.
Yeah, awesome.
Big house. But, so that's personal news.
It's a shame. I thought you were going to say something like they were going to give an exchange price or something, perhaps, but.
No, he would have done. He would have done, but my sister wanted the battery.
Excellent. It's always good to see those things getting a second life and more use.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that was Power 1 was about, was it 7 kilowatt hours or something like that? It's about half.
Yeah, no, 6.4 usable. So yeah, 7 kilowatt hour. But yeah, you can't do any of the settings that you can on the app for the new one. It just sits there and runs. Like it doesn't. You can't change it for time of use or reserve any part of it. It's yeah, it's a huge leap. Pretty much almost exactly 4 years to the day that it went in, though.
Oh wow!
So it's been it's had a bit of use.
Well, I dare say you can do some of those features utilizing the settings in the inverter, so it can be up to the inverter to reserve a certain amount. Or
if it's modern enough to do that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that one was. But.
Cool. Well, hopefully, perhaps with Battery Day, wouldn't it be nice if there was a Powerwall 3?
A Powerwall 3-phase, I think.
Indeed. You could call it a Powerwall 3.3 and a 3.1.
Yep.
Just thinking. Maybe we should tweet that out and ask.
On her.
With the 4070 batteries.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Could be. We never know. We've got 28 sleeps to find out. So, Tim, do you have an EV, or are you intending on getting one?
Yes, I've got one on order, and hoping it'll be delivered in September. Model 3, standard range, so very similar to Ashley's, and really looking forward to it. So it's I had a drive of Ashley's, and we're here in the west, so we're going to go. We went down and had a test drive down at the people at Netherlands. It's very, very good. Very impressive.
So Harry took you for a spin in his performance Model 3?
Yes, yes. Along the west coast and just up and down near Scarborough. Very pleasant.
Excellent. So you're saying it's due in September?
I think so. That's what they're saying. Late next month. So I'm hoping. We actually placed the order in early June. So they've given me a number. I have nothing else other than that.
Yep. Well, obviously, you know, if you're getting itchy, just give Harry a call, and he can sort of assist with, you know, finessing that time. But it's exciting. You have you worked out insurance and things like that for it yet?
Yes, we've talked to RAC, and we've got I think we've got the insurance sorted out. I've actually increased the solar on the roof, so I'll be charging from home. So I put 11 kilowatts on the roof with an 8 kilowatt Fronius, and I put a Fronius power management package in so I can charge the Tesla during the day. And so I'm hoping that we will do this energy neutral.
Yep, absolutely. The average car is about 36 Ks a day, so you can easily fill that with solar with no problems whatsoever.
Absolutely, yes.
Cool. Congratulations. That's exciting. Yeah, it's funny that to wait, when you're waiting for your car to arrive, that's always tortuous. But as soon as it arrives, all is forgiven and you don't care anymore, and it's just awesome.
You're right. It's slow water torture, and it's I'm looking forward to it, so it'll be very good. I've got a friend in Melbourne. He's already got a Model 3, and he's loving it too. So it should be good.
Hey Tim, when did you order it?
I ordered it early May. Early June. Sorry.
I'm not crying for you. I was a first day reservation holder. I waited 1,309 days for mine.
But at least you weren't counting, Richard.
Yes.
Well, the day I got my car, I said, "Hey Google, how many days ago was the 1st of August 2016?" And it's 1st of April, and it said 1,309 days.
Well,
so there you go.
It's
worth waiting for, mate. They're fun.
Tim,
I'm down in Nannup at the moment. I mean, dwelling.
Where are you?
Denmark.
Are you sure?
You know, we've been travelling around for about 5 days. It's been fun. Yeah.
So where are you today?
We're staying at Chimes Resort because they've got a Tesla destination charger. And last 2 nights we stayed at Holbury, whatever it is, in Nannup, because they had a destination charger. So going to these places I wouldn't normally go. It's great.
Okay, right. That's very good.
And tomorrow we're driving to down to Albany, scoot around Albany, and then up to Katanning. And we're going to stay there the night and then head home. So, yeah.
So I just noticed.
We're staying somewhere in Geraldton that's got a Tesla charger as well. And we did the same when we went down to Albany a month or so ago.
So I just noticed, Richard, that you haven't checked in on PlugShare.
No.
And that's all right too. You can do
because I've been to 2 RAC chargers and I've been to the Tesla destination chargers. So I've taken some photos, but yeah.
Cool.
I've got PlugShare, but doesn't seem to want to help me.
It's social media, so you're entitled to use it as much or as little as you like.
Oh, okay. Cool. No worries. Hey, Tim, I've got to ask you, you said you have 11 kilowatts on the roof.
Yes.
So that's what I want to ask someone who's done it. I've got 6.6 I put up last year. I had a smaller one years and took it down, put a big one up. And I'm only getting about 4.5 kilowatts out of maximum, even on the best days. How can I put more up? And I thought there was a limit.
There is a limit.
Yep.
And what occurs, I've got a 3-phase house and I'm installing a 3-phase.
Yeah. Say no more.
Yeah, okay. And I've lost the feed in.
I told you to say no more, didn't you get it?
That was going to be my next question as well.
So is it possible to put more up on a single phase house than your 5 kilowatts or not?
Got to apply to Synergy for that, and they may approve it or may not. It's all up to them. I actually applied for 13 on the roof with a 10 inverter.
That's what I wanted to do, yeah.
And they actually downgraded it from 13 to 10, and a 10 to 11 and an 8. Now, 8 is what I consider the bare minimum to charge at a 5 kilowatt rate for the Tesla over, say, 6 or 8 hours during the day. And what I did was I included the Fronius power management package, which includes the meter, the smart meter. That way, then you can control when you're charging the Tesla, when you're exporting over a certain limit. And I'll charge it 5 units an hour. So, and that's a reasonable rate for somebody who's retired and just tonking around the suburbs.
It's a reasonable rate for anyone. That's what I do as well. And, because generally you're just topping up. You're very rarely charging from empty. So 5 is heaps.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and if you want, you can go to the extent of getting something like a Zappi, which will do that arbitration for you automatically, or as Ken suggests, you just dial in a low charge rate and just wait all day, and it works perfectly well.
That's right.
So actually, on the solar charging thing, because I've kind of sort of got a bit frustrated and run around in circles here. The other guys will know I'm always banging on about putting more solar up and trying to get as much as possible. But I'm now got 5 kilowatt inverter, 6.6 of panels, but the roof is completely of the garage is completely clear of panels. So I'm now looking at an off-grid system on the roof here, and Rob's actually been helping me find systems on Gumtree that you can get for, you can get an older, even a couple of years old of a system, 5 kilowatt inverter, 6.6 of panels for under $1,000. But the problem is that is a grid-tied inverter. But essentially, what I'm trying to work out is how to get a grid-tied inverter to connect to the car charger, to then connect it straight into the car and just have a completely off-grid car charging setup. So if someone knows how to do that, then that would be very interesting.
If you're totally off grid, and which you are by definition, otherwise you couldn't do it legally. Look, you could try something. It'll be single phase, wouldn't it? Inverter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know how automatic you could make it, but you could try something like getting a small inverter. I don't know how well it would work, and hooking it up to something like a lead acid battery, like a 12 volt wet battery, so it doesn't swell or anything.
But that would be
as the pacing inverter. So it starts up. You then connect your isolated solar inverter to the system,
But it's expecting a 240 volt 50 hertz connection, right?
Yes, which is what the little inverter would provide. But then the problem is,
right, sorry. I see. Yeah,
it might be fussy because some of those small inverters are basically pretty rough square wave inverters, or they're modified sine wave, and it might not like it.
Yeah.
You might need to get something more like a Sunny Island, which is a one of the islanding inverters, or there are various Chinese equivalents. The only issue then is, of course, then you actually understand how the grid works, which is it has to be perfectly matched. I don't know. Google, are there any actual solar powered car EVSEs that are islands?
Yeah.
You can also add try a UPS, a sine wave UPS, which is the grid tied element. As long as the inverter has the ability to have export limits. So your inverter you're using is controlling the voltage output and the power output, of course, to an upper limit of voltage, which is the UPS voltage.
Gotcha.
Once you establish that, then the whole system sits idle until it's connected to the mini grid which you have. It's not exporting anything.
Yep.
And then when you connect the car charger, you're providing a load.
Yep.
Immediately the voltage falls from the UPS.
Yep.
So then the grid inverter and the grid panels will provide the power.
That's a great idea. Yeah, okay.
That is the solution to the problem, but it's something which I don't think too many people have tried.
No.
Would be the only real solution to it.
So that UPS would essentially be generating a 50 hertz frequency at 240 volts. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yep.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
And it might work because the solar inverter would be set to adjust its voltage no greater than the grid limit of 250 something. Yep. So what would happen is if no load was connected, the inverter would probably float the system to 250 and then just sort of stop producing more power.
Which I want it to do. Yeah, I want it to stop.
The question is when you connect the car and say ask for a kilowatt or 2 kilowatts, the voltage will then sag and then the inverter will then sort of push more energy. The problem that happens is if the car is wanting to draw more energy than the solar is producing, you'll then your UPS will try and provide some, but then you could flatten it because the inverter's going flat out, the UPS is going flat out, and the car's going flat out. And unless you can moderate that, so really what you need to Google is a islanded solar powered EVSE controller. Bear in mind that the minimum power it can output is about 1.4 kilowatts, which is 6 amps single phase.
Yep.
Your system could be a bit of a hodgepodge of sort of connected items. And as suggested, UPS does exactly the same as a lead acid. Well, it's basically a gel cell in a connected to an inverter.
Yes.
The only question is whether the solar inverter, because they usually have fairly fussy grid requirements. So unless you've got an islanded one or one that's specifically made, well, you have to probably get an island one anyway, because I think an ordinary grid connected one will crack the wobblies straight away. It'll say, oh, I don't like the frequency, I don't like the voltage regulation, I don't like the non-sinusoidal distortion, which for an UPS is fine because computers don't care, switch mode power supplies don't care. In fact, they kill power supplies, they flatten the tops off the sine waves. Richard, I think you might really want to go for an island solar inverter. And look, the ideal is if there's one that actually has an EVSE, like the SolarEdge you have.
Well, but funny enough, I was thinking
in island mode.
I do have the SolarEdge inverter, which is a car charger as well. But I don't know whether that still requires a 50 hertz, because obviously it's connected to the Powerwall and it's also connected to the grid. So
that inverter is grid interactive, so it requires a nice grid. Bearing in mind too that in the EVSE standard, even though the EVSE can tell the car to say a cloud bank comes over, it can tell the car to back off. Yeah, there are minimum. The car can take its sweet time. It's not instantaneous. It's within about 1 or 2 seconds that it reduces power.
So I wonder if I might have the solution sitting right here in the garage already. Because if I turn off the Powerwall, I turn off the grid connection through the gateway, disconnect everything apart from the inverter connected to the solar panels, and just see if it actually charges the car.
The question which I've got to ask is, how much can your Powerwall supply in kilowatts?
5.
I think it's
5 and
5,
7.
yeah.
7
for a very short period, but 5.
All right. So the maximum rate you can charge the car will be at 5. You would most probably set it at 3. That way, then you're within 60% of the capability of the Powerwall, and that gives you time. As the weather varies and it goes up and down, if you're setting the charge to the Tesla at 3 and your panels are capable of supplying 5, the inverter, which has got grid control on it, will throttle back the panels to 3. So you're just continuing along at a set power rate. The biggest problem is when you have a complete lockout of clouds, you then have the inverter and the panels falling below the 3 output. Then you're looking for your Powerwall to supply to charge the car. Now, depends on that threshold and as to how long. But eventually the Powerwall will say, I've only got 6.5 kilowatts or whatever, the 6.5 units to put out. Once it's got to the end of that, then it will shut down and then you lose your grid tie. Is that the way people see it?
Yeah, I think the thing is that the solution that Richard is proposing is if he's not able to add to his grid-tied solar, is to have a separate system. I guess that's one of the questions, Richard. You simply have to just apply to Western Power for whatever you want. You tell them you want another 5 kilowatts.
Oh, so I suppose I could do that, couldn't I? I suppose just
or 10. I don't know whether if you apply for too much, will they simply just knock you back to knock you down to the max, or will they just reject your application out of hand?
If you only have single phase, you will have a problem of going above 5.
But you see, I also don't want to do that because I mean, even though it's only 7 cents a kilowatt hour export, I don't really want to lose that, and I will lose that if I go above the 5 kilowatt. So, which is why I was thinking that if I could have a separate off-grid system on the garage roof, charge the car pretty much just from that. If it's got a battery on it, maybe even run, I don't know, washing machine or so. I'm not sure, but yeah, priority would be the car, and then just let the house, be powered by the inverter and the Powerwall, and just have a completely separate system to charge the car.
The Froniuses, the Primos, which is the single phase version hybrid, I think they can go in island mode. They can go in when they disconnect it off the grid. The issue is what happens if they're dead flat, but do they wake up by themselves, Pete? If they get enough sun, can they wake up and then start charging the battery?
They should be able to, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that is the case. They will wake up and start themselves.
Now, so if you do buy battery storage with it, Richard, were you looking at battery storage per se, or?
Well, I mean, you know, I guess I'm trying to do this as a bit of a sort of hobby project, but also trying to see how cheaply I can do it. You know, if you can get a 6.6 kilowatt system secondhand off of, you know, go and pull it off someone's roof for less than $1,000 and connect it to a, you know, the, you know, 2.4 kilowatt EVSE, you know, and just put it straight into the car, then that's a really cheap solution. I mean, I guess the other thing that would work, not that I would do it because, you know, it's a very expensive one, is connect the $1,000 6.6 kilowatt secondhand system to a Powerwall, and then that will charge that up, and then I can draw it off the car. So, you know, and then run other things maybe. But yeah, I guess the point was, I wonder how cheaply I could get a car charging system set up on a load of spare roof space.
Richard, like Harold said before, one thing that you need to keep an eye on is a grid-tied inverter. If it's an Australian inverter, you will have to be compliant with AS 4777, which is a standard which one of the stipulations is that it has to check for the presence of the grid.
Okay, that's good to know, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like Harold was saying, you need an island, you know, like a sunny island, or the Fronius hybrid might be, you know, the Primo hybrid might be a solution.
Yeah, sure. No, look, this is why I'm asking the question. Absolutely.
The problem is it'd be very hard to find any of those, and they wouldn't be cheap.
No.
So you'll be able to find panels cheap. It will just be a matter of finding a island
inverter.
It'll be tricky to find one, and if you do find one, you probably won't be cheap, but you could get lucky. Yeah.
So is the consensus at Richard's place, because he has a Powerwall at the moment, where Western Power seem to include that as the inverter capacity, the 5 kilowatts as its nameplate inverter capacity. So therefore you're limited to 10 kilowatts of inverter capacity per phase, and a single phase building that's 10 kilowatts of inverter. He already has a 5 kilowatt solar inverter and a 5 kilowatt onboard Powerwall inverter. He's banned from any further inverters. Is that the current?
That's how I understand it.
I mean, that's generally the way Western Power have recently been applying the rule. I mean, there was a 7.2, so you could, I mean, I did that as recently as about 6 months ago, 6 or 8 months ago for a client. So he had a single phase, wanted as much as possible, and we applied for a 7.2 inverter with about 10 kilowatts of panels, and he got it approved. So yeah, someone was suggesting that you just apply for it and see what they say. So yeah, not much to lose by applying, but once you apply, you'll definitely know. And they will. So the question before was, will they just reject your application, or will they reduce your capacity? Well, they'll do both. So they'll reject your application, but then they'll suggest reapplying at a lower capacity, which is de facto, you know, you're not approved, but they're suggesting.
But this is what you can do to get it approved. Yeah,
exactly.
And it's not a blind rejection. They'll actually give you the number that they would then probably pass.
That's correct.
Cool. You might as well do that first, Richard, because
I mean, look, you know, I mean, if by, you know, who knows, the gods could shine and they could approve another 5 kilowatt inverter, in which case I'm happy to lose the 7 cents a kilowatt hour export, because then it just makes it so much easier. And then it goes into the, you know, the house and the Powerwall and all of that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, if it's not, how much is it to apply? I can't even remember, or whatever it is. It's probably not going to be.
I don't even think there is a fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've got nothing to lose then.
Yeah. That link that I sent you, I think it was
Sorry, yeah, I've completely forgotten to call you this last week. So
oh, that's all right. No drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that link that I sent you, I think it was last week or the week before. That's the link with the actual application.
I've still got that. Thanks so much. Yeah. And sorry, and I'll call you tomorrow about the other thing. I completely went out of my head.
No worries. All good.
Cool. So I trust that everyone except for Tim has heard about the Coolin Drive.
No, I don't think I know about that.
Okay, well, that is on Saturday the 10th of October. It's actually an overnight drive. So those details are also on our website, and basically we're planning for a limit of approximately 20 cars. That's mainly for charging practicality purposes. And like I said, if you have a look at our website, it'll actually show this try booking page where you simply if you're interested, just register so we can count numbers of cars. It doesn't matter how many people turn up. It's really just a case of total cars. It's approximately a 260 odd kilometre, actually 282 kilometres from the GPO, first GPO. So that's a great 2-day drive. So we basically drive there, stay overnight in Coolin, and then drive home the next day or whatever. So anyone that's interested, definitely hop on. It's on our website. I think it's our last post on the website, or one of the most recent posts, to get some more information on it. But we'll make sure that we have plenty of chargers available with a bit of load sharing. There are at least 3 charging outlets that we can utilise, and possibly some more. So that should be pretty good longer trip.
And what about accommodation there, Harold?
Yeah, the Coolin Hotel Motel has 6 rooms, chalets, whatever you want to call them.
Okay.
There's also a caravan park that has, how many bays has that got, Rob? It's got 12 bays. No, sorry. Yes, 12 bay caravan park. So it's got 12 sites if you want to do some camping. And there's also some dormitory accommodation as well as another option. But it might be more suited in the hotel or in the caravan park.
Yep.
It'd be a bit tough to actually drive there and then drive home sort of later that afternoon, because you do need time to charge your car. Although it's not impossible, if you got there really early before lunch, plugged in straight away, you could basically charge your car for the 3-hour home trip, in the evening if you wanted to do that. But it's mainly intended for an overnight stay.
Yeah.
Which will be our first.
What's the plan? Are you guys traveling in a convoy, or
yeah,
somewhere and then going together?
We're currently planning sort of 2 convoys, mainly on the basis of you could do some opportunistic charging, perhaps on a short break. I think one was, Ken, you're a bit more familiar with this.
Yeah, so the plan, I think, was to run 2 convoys, one via the shortest route, which goes via Brookton, and another via a slightly longer route via Williams, and then turning left via sort of through the southern route through. And both of those sort of midway points, we'd probably stop for a cup of coffee, and if anyone needed to top up, both of them have options for 22 kilowatts of charging at least. And we're hoping to bring some kind of octopus cables so we can charge kind of multiple cars at once. But the idea is that the drive is just about easy for anyone's, including my 4-year-old 75 to make it without actually having to stop. So those of you with Model 3s and later model cars than mine will have no problems. You won't need to charge. And the idea will be that when we get to Coolin, there's plenty of 3-phase as well as other charging options there. So we'll kind of have a bit of a spread everyone out and just top us up, because if we're there overnight, we can do the bulk of the charging in the afternoon and a bit of top up overnight, and then everyone should have a full tank for driving back the next day. And 1 or 2 opportunities for a gin and tonic or 3 at the pub, and more of this.
There's actually a toilet block with RV service, and it just so happens that there's actually a Tesla destination charger, I think that's right, and a 3-phase outlet at the same place. And it just so happens that the hotel is just around just on this corner here, so it's very close. So it's quite convenient. And I've just been running some numbers on a spreadsheet. And for instance, if we have 15 cars and we're utilising 3 outlets, we can basically easily charge all those cars in about 13 hours. And that's actually using some pessimistic efficiency numbers. So Model 3s will be a lot more efficient. And basically, it's going to be it'll be an interesting trip, but it's well doable. As Ken mentioned, you've got Coolin here, and it was via Brookton, wasn't it, Ken?
Yeah, that's right. Brookton has some charging. There's also, I think, charging in Beverley, but the plan was for the northern route to go via Brookton, and then for the southern route to go via Williams and through that way through Wickepin.
Yeah, it probably makes sense to go the whatever road that is. The Brookton Highway, straight to Brookton, and there's actually a Circontrol 22 kilowatt unit there. And what we can do is we could bring a splitter which will split that to 2 10 kilowatts. So 2 cars will be able to top up there if they really want to. And you've also got Corrigan has a 3-phase, 20 amp 3-phase.
Yeah, Corrigan's not so awesome. It's just a 3-phase at the pub, but if people wanted to stop in Corrigan, they could. I don't know that it's that exciting a town, but Brookton through Coolin should be no problems. And obviously, although Williams is the longer route, there's a lot more opportunity for charging at Williams. At the Woolshed, there's, as we've talked about earlier, there's a Tesla destination charger there, which is broken now, but there is also at least 2 22 kilowatt 3-phase plugs there as well.
Actually, I think Andrew has reported that it's working nicely now, so I think that's working. I think, Rob, did you mention that a moment ago, that Williams is working?
Yeah, I'm going to check on Saturday morning.
Yeah, actually, I know who that Andrew is, so I'll give him a buzz. I'm pretty certain he
was at Electricana.
Yeah, no. I'm just trying to think whether I lent him one of the 3-phase adapters. He might have actually used it. Well, we'll check that up.
Yeah, that's correct, Harold. He was the one who you lent him the so yep, he is the right person.
Yes.
Yeah. So the HPWC there wasn't itself damaged, but it had the cable had been removed from the bottom either by violence or by accident.
Sorry, I was just looking to see if that was a HPWC cable. It certainly could be.
Yeah, but that's from early July. It was still working back then.
Oh, I see. Right. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, when I used it probably 7 weeks ago, it was pulled out of the bottom.
Yeah, the grommet had come out the bottom, and either someone had tugged on the cable, or either intentionally or accidentally, and it just needed repairs. So I don't know whether that's happened or not.
Well, I told the staff so.
And we've got Narrogin Hotel, which you're familiar with, Ken.
Yeah, it's only
7
single phase, and it's for people who are staying. You know, I don't think we plan to stop there.
Yeah, cool.
The main stop points that make sense are Brookton and Williams, and then we'll roll through from there.
Excellent. And then obviously at Coolin we've got there's a reserve, which what we'll do is we'll plan whoever gets there first. We'll put a couple of cars here. That's a 3-phase outlet, I think. Yeah, it is. It's 3-phase. So we'll chuck at least a couple of cars there during the daytime at least and get them charged up. And the caravan park has a 14 kilowatt HPWC. So again, we can put at one of the larger cars. Like you wouldn't waste a Model 3 on that. You'd do an X or an S that can draw more power, such as mine or Rob's. And then at this public area, they've actually got a HPWC and a separate 32 amp 3-phase outlet. So on that, we can connect at least 3 cars to the 3-phase, and at least one car to the HPWC, and we'll be fine. We'll
It'll
just
be an adventure, and that's the point.
So say that again, Ken?
I'm saying it'll be an adventure, and kind of that's the point.
Yes, exactly. One or two of us will make sure that we follow the ABCs, which is always be charging and never leave a plug unattended or unused. So yeah, that'll be a good. It'll be our first overnight road trip, but it certainly won't be our last. So yeah, do hop on our website and click onto the try booking. And like we said before, there's no fee. It's just the intention is just so that we can count numbers and get an idea of who's coming. Now there was a website too which had all of the locations of accommodation, and that is the Wheatbelt Tourism or Central Wheatbelt Visitor Centre, and they basically tell you that you've got your Coolin Hotel Motel, you've got a couple of bed and breakfasts, a couple of cottages, and camp and group accommodation, which is the Coolin Retreat, and you've got the caravan park, which is pet friendly. If you have your own RV or caravan. I don't know if anyone has a caravan that they might want to bring. That's something that, you know, would be different. And if you're no takers, because if you had,
I'm obligated for a tow bar.
I've got a Model X that can tow one, so I could take one. It'd probably cruel my range.
Harold, I've got a caravan, but it weighs almost 3 ton.
No, wow, that's what? How did you get your house on wheels, Pete? How did you do that?
Cybertruck for that one.
My car's limited to 2.25 tons, unfortunately. I was thinking more of like a 6x4 box trailer with a tent strapped to it.
I got to duck out, gents. I'll be back in
Hey, Harold, I noticed on the PlugShare app, Lake Grace was coming up. Is that the EVA, the Perth to Esperance, the first charger?
Yes, it is.
So that's operational now?
Is it? No, it's not operational yet. Is that on PlugShare, is it, Pete?
Oh, I noticed Lake Grace was coming up when you had it, when you were, so yeah. So
There we go. Oh, it is up as a coming soon. Yes.
Oh, it's coming soon. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the first successful. That will be the first successful installation of the Chuffed Esperance to Perth highway charging campaign. We believe that the go ahead has happened, and that charger will be installed over the next few weeks, hopefully in time for the school holidays. And that'll be a 50 kilowatt tritium, and that will actually get you easily to Ravensthorpe. And if you sort of go slowly, you can sort of almost make it to Esperance from Lake Grace. I think it's about 370 odd kilometres to Esperance from Lake Grace. But you could also just charge up at the Greenhaven Ravensthorpe Caravan Park, albeit on 11 kilowatts for Model 3s, or the reduced rate S's and X's. So yeah, so that's definitely, that should be installed in the next 3 weeks, Pete. I think, or 3 or 4 weeks. Hopefully before the school holidays.
Okay, excellent.
The campaign also has another tritium that's in stock. It's been purchased and it's at Gemtech waiting for dispatch. And we're trying really hard to get that put in at Ravensthorpe, which of course then solves the Albany to Esperance issue, and also makes it easier via Lake Grace as well, because you can just do a quick top up at Ravensthorpe if and when that gets installed. So yeah, you definitely read correctly there, Pete. That Lake Grace one is going in. And the Katanning unit has upped its power to, I think it's 35 kilowatts. Yes, it's now set to 35 kilowatts, which is actually not too bad. That's sort of not that far off what most cars would get when they're in a fairly low state of charge, because of battery voltage limits. So that's also a good alternative. And I'm not sure if there's any, yeah. So that's another alternative and a good spot. It's right next to one of the main hotels, which these days seems to be pretty booked out most weekends. It's right next to some historical building that's got the dome and the Katanning something hotel. And we're still working, speaking of charging, we're still working on the RAC highway, but hopefully going to have some progress on that in the coming weeks. And again, hopefully perhaps having a resolution, hopefully by the school holidays.
Have they fixed the problems with the RAC chargers at Mandurah at the moment, Harold?
At where, sorry, Ashley?
At Mandurah? The Mandurah?
No, I think that's still offline. Is that still offline, Rob? You're a lot closer than I am.
I think Joseph said to me the other day they have it working.
That's not what's on PlugShare. The last post on the 5th of August was unit offline again, something possibly faulty, free vend mode. but I think that might be more to do with the Sercontrol AC unit. I think the actual DC unit is still offline.
I'll go and check it tomorrow, and I'll put a legible post up there.
Yeah, cool. Because I think that station's victim to a lot of vandalism, unfortunately.
And believe it or not, it's actually got a camera pointing straight at it.
Because you get a bit of this happening, sadly. Which, by the look of it, probably would still work, but it just doesn't look very nice. So, anyway. And yeah, you're right, Rob. There is a camera right there looking at it. But I guess those that swing plugs like cats and smash them on the ground don't really care. But anyway.
Yesterday I went into the Kudo Hotel for lunch, and I went into the bathroom, and both the taps had been ripped off the wall. And seriously, they're bolted quite strongly to the wall. Both of them ripped off the wall. And I went to the barmaid and I said, "You probably know the taps are broken." She goes, "Again? Seems to be a regular thing." You just wonder why people would walk into a pub and rip taps off the wall.
Yeah.
So Harold, getting back to PlugShare,
Yes.
I'm just looking on my phone at PlugShare, and I'm looking at Katanning because that's where we're staying. We're staying at the Yellow Glen B&B, and
Yes.
I've only got that on PlugShare. I don't have the other one. Why is that?
Yes. So you don't have the DC one because when you click onto plugs, you have to enable CCS SAE.
Okay.
So make sure you do that. And then you'll actually see the DC.
So how do I do that? I'm looking for it.
You look at filter. On the app, you look at filter.
And I'll just close it and start again.
Do you have I think I saw you had an iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what you do is see that little funnel symbol?
Yep.
You click on that and it's got the filters, and you go to you scroll down and you'll see the list.
Yeah.
And then you just have to select CCS.
CCS.
Yes.
Okay, I've got Supercharger, Chatter Mode, J1770, Tesla Type 2, and Wall. That's all I've got.
Show others. Go click and show others.
Showing. Reset output filters. Showing compatible.
Yeah, show incompatible. Just put show incompatible, and then you'll get
CCS.
CCS.
Yeah, CCS. Okay, thank you.
So I presume if it says show incompatible, you haven't told it that you've got a Model 3.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Don't know why I did that.
Richard Cooper, are you staying at the Yellow Glen Bed and Breakfast now?
No, tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow night. Okay, yeah, that's Robin and me stayed there 3 years ago.
Yep.
We went down to Katanning to see Steve Bradbury. You know, the ice skating guy.
Yeah.
He was doing a show down there, so we actually got that destination charger put in there. And
cool.
Yeah, they were lovely people, South African people.
So I talked to him.
It's a really nice spot, really lovely place.
Cool. Yeah, well, they've all been good where we stayed. I was talking to, was it Martin? I think it was Martin, and he said, "Oh, are we staying at Holbury?" He said, "Oh, yeah, we got that charger put in." And then I said, "I remember staying at Chimes." And he said, "Yeah, we got that put in too." So that's nice.
Yeah, so as you can see, the chargers, it's very convenient. You can just park your car alongside and plug in.
Yep.
So that's a good spot. I was there in April 2018.
Right. Well, you'll be happy I've uploaded 3 shots since you asked me to get on PlugShare, Harold.
Awesome. Good work. Well done.
So, but I don't know. I can't see them, so I don't know where they are. So anyway, I did that. Cool.
You just
That'll
have to, they might not necessarily be on the front image. You might have to just click on images and it might be further back in the queue, possibly. But yeah, I was only cheekily sort of saying that you hadn't checked in. It's of course completely optional. And what what I do myself is I usually update the status if it's changed. So say if there was a place that was recorded as being not working and I find it is working, then I'll definitely post that it is. Or the opposite,
absolutely.
You know, or if you come across one that's got a problem, you definitely post it up. But to be honest,
cool.
I go to many places and don't feel inclined to check in because I don't have to. But it's a good resource for up-to-date information. So, and of course, when you check in, it defaults as indicating that you're there for an hour. So some people get excited at UWA when people don't check in because they try to use that as an indication of whether it's occupied or not. But unless you accurately say 30 minutes, well, it'll give them a false sense of you being there anyway. And not everyone uses it.
Harold, can you hear me?
Yes, Nigel.
Yeah. You say it defaults to 1 hour. Mine defaults to 15 minutes, my app. Is there a way of changing that setting?
I don't know. I just presumed it was always an hour because that's what mine does. Perhaps there is a default, Nigel.
I will have a look.
Yes, that would probably be under something called settings, but that's a very good question. And if you have an iPhone or a Google phone, it would be different because they are different.
Yeah, I've got Android.
Android, yes. So change distance unit. No, it's not distance units. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that because mine doesn't have any. Oh, hang on, me. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. It doesn't edit profile.
It might be one of those settings that you can only set through the PC version of the app. So it might not have it on the actual smartphone app.
Yes.
Might be an
That's
idea.
a good settings. No, you can set the language and the current location and imperial or metric under settings. Wow, that's, yeah, I don't, oh, maybe when you check in, maybe if you do a check-in, it might actually, if you change it, it might, let's have a look, City of Perth Council, check-in. I won't say charging now. Oh, I guess I could delete it.
When you check in, you've got the option of saying how long you're going to be there for.
So,
yeah, but it doesn't allow a default on the Samsung that I've got.
Get a Motorola.
No.
It would still be the same app, I think.
Can you actually change? I'll check out. And then maybe I can delete it. I'll delete it. I just changed it to half an hour, and then maybe if I check in again somewhere else.
No, mine's always
defaults. Mine just defaulted to an hour. So even after I changed it to 30 minutes, saved it. For some reason, you've got a special phone there, Nigel.
Yeah, very special. Because I mean, mine always defaulted to 15 minutes, and even when I got here in Geraldton and I was going to be plugged in for 4.5 hours or 4 hours, I set it to 4. Plugged in again this evening, and it says 15 minutes. I said, no, I need an hour and a half to take it back.
So whereabouts are you charging now, Nigel, in Geraldton?
Yeah, I'm in Geraldton, and I mean, it
Where-
doesn't matter.
whereabouts?
You just go check the plug, check the time, submit. See,
No, sorry. Where are you charging?
Ocean West Holiday
Yes.
units. They're all right. Not
Yeah.
all that. Yeah, basic.
Yep. It's a cheerful motel.
Yeah, but, I mean, I like to support people that have gone to the bother of putting in Tesla chargers.
Yes, absolutely. So are you hanging around in Geraldton for a while, or are you going to come back?
No, we've been here since the weekend. We're heading off home tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I might give you a call tomorrow afternoon on the way down to drop the cable off.
Yeah, cool. That'd be good, because I think I got someone else that wants the same cable.
Yeah, I'll drop it off for you. Providing the FSD on this smart freeway, which is an absolute dog's breakfast when we came up. Has anybody else had troubles with it?
Has anyone used it? Maybe not.
Well, no, I had FSD on the freeway coming up, and it was slamming on the anchors because there was a red light on the railway line. Then it slammed on the anchors for the red lights over the freeway, the sign saying you can do 100. But it wanted to go through them doing about 20, much to the annoyance of people who were trying to see if I had an exhaust pipe or not.
I don't know. These Tesla drivers keep slamming the brakes and swerving and changing lanes willy-nilly.
I'm a shit driver, that's all it is, I think.
Was that all in one day, Nigel, or over a couple of days? I noticed.
We came up on Sunday. I think the smart freeway had opened up on Friday or Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
We went up on Sunday and on the FSD, and it was just slamming on the anchors most of the time when there was a red sign above, and slowing through traffic control system, and it had the line across on the screen, and there's no lines across on the freeway, that's for sure. So it was a bit of a dog's breakfast, but I see a few other people were also bitching about it.
What about the blue lines on the side? I noticed that my lines for the first time were showing red on a couple of occasions, but that only happened on one day. And the blue lines would go red and it would go crazy for a moment and then go back to blue again. But apart from that, it's just the usual stuff, I guess.
Was it doing that when it was suggesting a lane change, Ashley?
No, it wasn't suggesting it. I was just driving straight on the road, and suddenly it would go red on either side. For the first time in my life, I've seen that. Never seen it before. And it would go all wobbly and then suddenly disappear after a while and go back to normal. So yeah, it was pretty scary, but yeah.
It wasn't asking you to take over the steering, was it? It wasn't.
No, it didn't ask me to take over the steering, but the steering would shudder a bit, and both the lines, the blue lines, would go red, and yeah, it happened for a couple of a microsecond or so, and then go back to blue again. But I've never seen that before, and since then it hasn't happened. I mean, this was on Sunday, I think, when I noticed that. Yeah.
And it was dry on Sunday. It wasn't raining, was it? It was just.
Yeah, it wasn't raining. Yeah,
it was nice weather.
Yeah.
Was it early in the morning or late in the afternoon?
No, it wasn't. Not too late, around 9 o'clock-ish mark, so in the morning.
It might have just freaked out. It might have been about to abort autopilot, to get you to take over.
Yeah.
And then maybe it, like whatever freaked it out, must have just resolved just in time for it not to abort, and then it go back to sort of normal.
Yeah, so, yeah. But I always notice the bus interchange at Victoria Park. Have you ever driven past there?
On Albany Highway or Shepparton Road.
Yes, as before you just get into the city, going from Victoria Park into the city. I always try to report a bug report at that point in time, but still nothing happens. It's the same thing. So yeah.
I guess one slight bit of good news is that when that new software stack comes out, your car is going to behave completely differently. So
Yeah, when they get the rewrite, I guess. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which should be before the end of the year. Everyone should be getting it with hardware 3, which is all the Model 3s, of course.
Yep.
Oh, and that was a bit of news too, that I'm not sure if we discussed that last week about Tesla doing the version 4 chips, and there's talk about it maybe coming out for the Cybertruck in 2022.
That's correct. I think I mentioned that last week. I read
yeah,
somewhere
yes.
in China, they've got the version 4 chips coming out there. So, yeah.
One bit of news this week was that their Tesla filed a patent for a camera to, in case you leave a baby in the car, once robo-taxis are prevalent.
There was a radar. It was actually a radar. Yeah, they're seeking approval to up the power of a small radar transducer to detect soft bodies, and they say they need the extra power because they need to penetrate through blankets and similar things. Yep. And there has been some prior precedent of other manufacturers getting approval for similar things or similar sort of applications. So it's looking good for Tesla to get that approved by the FCC.
Fellas, can I just break in? I have to leave. Thank you very much, Harold and Ashley. Look forward to this next week. And Richard, I'd love to chat to you about your independent charging arrangement. That would be,
no worries, man. That's great.
Very much indeed. I think it's achievable, but it may take some work. Fellas, I look forward to next week. Happy driving, and I'll see you later.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Tim,
Take care,
have a
Tim.
good one.
This is my first Zoom. I just got to work out how to get out of here.
Oh, Harold,
Close the lip.
I'll click the close button. Good night, fellas. Thank you.
No,
Yeah. Goodbye.
cool.
I've got a question, if I may.
Yes.
So this morning was a fairly cold morning, as most of them are still at the moment. And I left home fairly early in the car. When I got home, I noticed the battery was right on 50%, 50. And then around midday, I had to pop out again. And I hadn't even driven the car, and the battery percentage had jumped to 53%. Now, I'm putting it down to the temperature probably being the biggest factor, but I was wondering if you guys had any perspectives on whether, whether it actually takes the temperature into account before you start driving, or how the algorithm works.
I think it used to act like a petrol gauge, which used to have, I don't know if it was a viscous thing in the gauge where it would deliberately keep steady regardless of what the float was doing. So their algorithm was done to basically not really change the recorded state of charge, which does fluctuate with temperature. So I've noticed too in my car where I've actually had it increase in range after settling, which is presumably warming up. And I've also seen it go the other way as well a little bit. I dare say they're just playing around with the algorithms, and perhaps for us more technical people might like it and go, well, that's great that it's giving a more accurate result. But others might get a bit perturbed and go, well, why is it flip-flopping around? But yeah, it's definitely temperature, because you'd be quite surprised how cool your battery pack can get. I mean, you don't always even see the restricted regen, even though you can feel it, because you can actually, when it's indicating it is quite restricted, but even though it's not there, you do notice when you take your foot off, it doesn't break as hard as it normally does. But yeah, I think it's definitely temperature related. And I think they're just allowing the BMS just to because, telling what the actual true state of charge is diabolically difficult because the voltage of the actual cells changes very little, and it's very hard to profile.
Well, you're really predicting the future as well, aren't you? Because it depends on your driving from there on, from that point on. So.
Yeah. And if you use those, things like those Bluetooth, Scan My Tesla things and the dongles, the voltage changes continually on load. It's just completely, well, it's not completely unpredictable, but it's all over the place. But yeah, you're right. And I dare say that's probably another software revision away from being probably removed and put back to what we're used to. But yeah, you do get some funny results. I've actually had it stop charging at 90%, and I come back to the car sometime later and it's actually gone up to 93%, even though it's not actually charged anymore. It's because the battery pack's actually warmed up, sort of, and then the BMS has said, well, it's got more charge in it now. I guess a good experiment would be to see if it actually then evaporates, if that gain evaporates because it's cooled down. But then you've got the combination of vampire drain and other things that make that all mysterious. But yeah, that's definitely a good catch there, Pete. That's, you haven't gone crazy. That's exactly what it does at the moment until we get another update.
I presume it was the temperature, in which case, I wasn't. I thought it was. Trying to be more accurate. You know, because the temperature changes, the range should change.
Did the actual range itself change, or was it just the battery percentage it was reporting? Were you on range mode or percentage mode?
Just percentage mode.
Yes.
The range should change with the percentage because they both come from the same input, don't they? They're both worked out.
It sort of should, but I think perhaps the algorithm might resist the urge to increase the range per se. But what might happen is, as you start driving the car, you might need to drive 3 or 4 kilometers before it actually decrements.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you guys have noticed that when your cars are brand new, if you're on range mode at say 100%, or even at, I'm not sure, so not so much at 90, but definitely at 100, you can start driving and your range won't actually be going down at all for about the first 10, 15, maybe 20 kilometers. And then it starts incrementally going down. And that's basically Tesla accounting for, you'd call it like a spare buffer, which is there to basically mask the initial battery degradation, which is completely normal. But if people saw it, they get alarmed thinking there's something wrong with their car.
Yeah.
So they mask it off by just basically under-reporting what your range is when it's brand new. And then, like I said, you can observe it by simply seeing that nothing's moving for a couple of dozen kilometers, and then it starts decrementing. And then I guess eventually you'll get to a stage where it'll stop doing that because that degradation has happened, and now it's just doing the real thing.
Degradation is fairly sharp, fairly early on, but then it plateaus out.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's exactly right. And I think the batteries are warranted to 70% of their original capacity.
Oh, it's only 70%, is it?
I think it's 70, yeah, I think it's 70.
I thought it was 80, but I'm not basing that.
I'm pretty sure I saw 70.
It's 70%.
Yeah.
It's definitely 70%. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And how many Teslas lose 30% in degradation over 7 or 8 years?
Yeah,
I haven't seen any.
The Tesla Loop cars, they're still, those are the cars that have done the most kilometers, and I can't remember where they are after 200, 300,000 kilometers. But yeah, I'd be surprised if it was below 90%.
Yeah. I mean, my car's done 140,000 kilometers. Well, Rob's done 100 and... Rob, are you at 200 or 180?
205.
Whew. There you go.
And how's your battery, Rob?
Yeah, it's good. So the initial drop off is in the first 50,000.
Yep.
Then it settles down. But you got to remember our 85 batteries, Tesla actually deliberately took some range off us, going back about a year ago to protect the battery.
Yeah.
So yeah,
safety.
yeah, because they had that fire in China.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, that's yeah. So they just gave you a bigger buffer
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
at both ends.
I don't know how it works.
I think
So-
at the top end, I think they don't charge it to the 4.2 threshold, which is the maximum Tesla charges any cell to. I think Rob's might be 4.17 or something. It's a slight, or 1.6. It's slightly. So I think they've clipped off a little bit of the top, because obviously when the battery's most charged is when it's in its most toxic state, which I think is what happened to that car in, was it China or Hong Kong? Or was it
China? And I think he had this guy had a habit of supercharging to 100% and then going and parking his car.
Yeah.
Straight
And
away.
it got heat soak and yeah, did its thing. But yeah, like you say, Pete, the degradation's quite low, really in reality. And I dare say it's probably less than an ICE car would get with effective range per tank, with inefficiencies and whatever, blow by and all that sort of stuff. And of course, Tesla will eventually get, if you keep your cars long enough, they will get to the stage where they'll offer an exchange pack, which I think we mentioned that last week, that they have done that to an owner in California, who wants to change his pack so he can get faster supercharging. Not that we have to worry about that too much at the moment, but, but one day.
Yeah, we can dream.
I mean, Nigel's all right. He's a lot closer, and Rob are a lot closer to the supercharger than most of the rest of us. Although Nigel, not at the moment.
No, not at the moment.
Just got something different to talk about. Now, is everyone here aware of the UWA report that was done by Thomas Brunel?
Yep.
That was a couple of years ago.
Richard's
Yes.
shaking his.
Is there anyone not aware of this report? So you're all aware. Okay. So the report was very good. It was the government, our state government, asked for this to be done. Now they haven't so far acted on the report, but we don't want to be in a position where we expect them to act on it. I think they may do, but we still want them to. Now, what's a bit interesting is Robin just went down to the school tonight for to watch a play, and one of our government ministers was there, and he tells Robin he has not seen the report, which is
Templeman.
which is quite interesting. He's a pretty honest guy, so he's asked for it to be sent to him in the morning.
Brilliant, excellent, good on you, Robin.
What's really critical is that, you know, Harold sends emails out to people, you know, on behalf of the club. I'm emailing all the time. We've got to keep emailing these politicians, and not just the government ones, but the opposition as well, because the best democracy is when the opposition is holding the government to account.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Libby Mettam is the opposition transport minister. She's aware of the report, but you've got to email her and talk to her about tourism.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Pollution.
Right.
Do not talk about environmental things.
Yeah.
Because it turns them off. It's got to be about air pollution and tourism. Also, Robin Chappell at the Greens. He's quite switched on to this stuff. And you've just got to point out in the email, guys, you know, you're important to democracy. You've got to bring the government to account on this and ask why they haven't acted on this report.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And for those that haven't seen it,
I remember looking at Twitter. I think it was on Jason's Twitter. I think it was Ben Wyatt, the treasurer, responding to. Jason was asking as to why the report wasn't implemented, And the answers were along the lines of, well, you know, there's priorities and what would you get rid of, you know, to come up with the 23 million. And
Get rid of the hydrogen in Joondalup.
Yeah.
Yes.
that was,
Tell
well,
us what you really think, Nigel. I've got to go.
Absolutely.
See you guys.
See you, Richard.
Yeah, Richard.
Go. Bye.
but I mean, there was the 22 million just announced to bring, you know, hydrogen, you know, from 2040 to 2030. So there's, you know, you would have thought, you know, charging equipment along the whole of WA would have been for EVs, which is a technology that's here and now, would have been a lot more urgent than, you know, funding 10 years for something that may or may not happen 10 years from now. But, you know, then there was plenty of posts, you know, around the kilns, the funding for the kilns. There was, yeah, all sorts of.
Today we had that the $50 million funding for the footbridge, replacing the cycleway or the mixed use path on the causeway. So hopefully it seems that the state government are doing good news announcements nearly every day. Perhaps given one of the media advisors, I think it was Bill Johnston's media advisor, in a response to Jason, one of his tweets about about this report actually, saying, you know, watch this space. Perhaps we're going to get some good news soon. As you can see on the report, I mean, it was published in December 2018, so it's certainly old enough. And, you know, one of the telling things is this map here, which basically can be done for, sorry, that's not the best. Well, that's 23.6. Here we go. This is the preferred map. And basically, almost all of the chargers proposed are at least 150 kilowatt, and quite a few are 350 kilowatt chargers. And you could go all the way basically to Kununurra so easily. It's just not funny for 28 roughly $1 million.
We were in the lead with the RAC electric highway, and now we're the last. Now we're coming last out of all the states.
Yes, exactly. We are far, far behind. I mean, just looking at plug share becomes a bit embarrassing.
It does.
Because if you just filter, for superchargers and CCS, and the map hasn't even updated yet. I mean, you look at Tasmania. Tasmania have more functioning fast DC chargers that can charge Teslas than Western Australia.
Yeah.
And I think the population of Tasmania is at I think it's about 200,000 roughly. So
Yeah, it's about a tenth of ours, isn't it?
yeah, so they have the population of, I think, the city of Stirling or the city of Joondalup, or probably less than the city of Joondalup. And they have, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think there are 2 in Launceston. Yeah, there are. And the NRMA are actually doing a whole lot of charges that are going across. I think they're going to go to Broken Hill that are coming. And the irony, of course, is that this most northerly charger at Caltex Jurien Bay is basically have been personally provided by John Edwards. So has the Arthur River charger. and we've got the Katanning one, which is it's probably one of the first ones that a council has decided to buy their own charger on their own bat, basically. And the Lake Grace one, of course, is because of a crowd-funded scheme.
Yep.
That many of us EV owners have invested in purely to get the job done.
Yep.
And yeah, the RAC Highway was the world's first electric highway.
Was it just RAC lost interest, or what's the story? Why it suddenly dropped off and they lost sort of?
Well, the thing is, they kind of climbed that mountain and moved on. Unfortunately, it probably was a victim of being the first, because as you can see, the spacing. I mean, to have a Busselton charger and a Dunsborough charger, you know, a Tesla can drive from Perth and get to, ignoring Bunbury, can probably get to Margaret River in one hop. So you're bypassing effectively 1, 2, 3, 4 chargers. So they were being underutilized, unfortunately. And the other problem too was that at the time, all the Teslas that were in town had free unlimited lifetime supercharging. So you just go to Eaton and top up, and you wouldn't want to pay the 45 cents a unit. But see, all the Model 3 owners are accustomed to paying for charging, because at best you get 1,500 kilometres of use, and then you've got to pay. So I guess in one sense it was a victim of it being early, because the spacing was designed for IMEVs and Nissan Leafs, the first generation, that would struggle to do 100 kilometres. So you had to be closely nested to properly interlink. So yeah, I mean, obviously a fantastic example of a great system was what Queensland did, which Rob and I have used to great advantage. And I mean, they basically have a string of pearls from Cairns all the way to Brisbane.
Yeah, lovely.
And that just makes it such a pleasant journey. It's just not funny. And of course, Tesla has done a little bit too. So yeah, living on the eastern seaboard, and we won't even talk about New Zealand, which that's not even all of them. If you zoom in, they actually start feeling more and more. Just look at that.
It looks like a while.
I mean, that scale, if you see in the lower right, that's a 10-kilometre scale. I mean, some of these are within 5 kilometres of each other. They're just piled on, you know.
Interesting, New Zealand, a lot of New Zealand's chargers are inspired by a Tesla owner who he had one of the original Roadsters, and he purchased a Model S from the Netherlands, brought it over, but he basically encouraged the shopping centres to put DC chargers in and solar panels in the roofs.
Yeah, good on him.
Yeah, so yeah, his progress at the start got this going.
I think it's a cultural thing as well. Like all the Kiwis at my work, they're always like building stuff and just like going, no, that doesn't, like, even like, you know, someone built a scoop for the ice machine because the one we had wasn't good. You know, it's just, there seems to be this culture of, you know, they're right, we're going to make do with whatever we've got and make it work and just get on with it. So, that's got to fit into it.
But on that point that Rob, you were making before about talking to your politicians, etc., and you know, the New Zealand guy, just might be worthwhile keeping in the back of your mind if you ever go to a shopping centre and there are no chargers. So I went to Galleria. I do this every time I go to a shopping centre and there is no charger. But it's very easy to find the shopping centre's telephone number just on Google, and you'll get put through to management. So I was at the Galleria on Monday and I just rang up management and I just said, oh, can you please let me know, can you please tell me where your electric vehicle chargers are? And, and you get some interesting answers, but I got a fairly good one on Monday. The lady said, look, I've done up a report So I've taken it up upon myself to do up a report for the operations manager, and it's been sitting on his desk for the last 3 months. But yeah, I'll remind him again. So
Cool.
yeah, that was the most positive one I've got so far. So
yeah, I did that with Rockingham City Shopping Centre. Contacted the management there and said, would you like to consider putting it in? And I got a reply back saying, yeah, look, it was on the table many, many years ago, but we haven't revisited it, but we will now. And then we emailed a couple of times, talking about where they would put them. I suggested further away from the entrance so they don't get iced. I was speaking to the guys from Gemtech, and they said, oh, we'll contact them. But I don't know what's happened. That was some months ago now. But it obviously takes them a while to get things in motion.
Yeah, there is some planning. And unfortunately, ironically, sometimes the most convenient place to put the chargers is unfortunately in the prime places because it's closest to the switchboard.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it was there's that charger down south that went to where thankfully the actual switchboard is out in the car park. It's actually a fantastic spot because it's sort of at the end of the car park. It was Busselton. Sorry, yeah, Busselton Shopping Centre.
Busselton Central Shopping Centre, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because the
good, that one there.
transformer is actually out in the car park and there's a switchboard there, switchyard or switchboard, whatever. And so that was really convenient. Well, that was a great place to put it. But for instance, at Riverton Shopping Centre, it's right, it's in prime location. Thankfully, it's not iced that much anymore, but yeah, you're right, Nigel. But yeah, Pete, it's a great move because I guess it always puts it in their minds that someone's asking about it. And I mean, people change behaviour. I drive to Riverton Shops, which is 5 k's away from me, even though Waterford Shops is 600 metres away.
Yeah.
And I'll make the effort, even though it's the same Coles, but I'll do the effort, even though it's not like I really gain extra range per se, but I do make the effort.
As I said earlier, I'll frequent places that support EVs now because I got one. So yeah, I always go to Stockland. I always used to go to Rockingham City at least once a week, but I haven't been there for months now.
Nigel, and what you're saying there is so correct, and it's important to note that on PlugShare. That you go to Baldivis like me, and we put on there, we do our shopping at Baldivis because this is where the charger is. This is where we're spending our money, and they read those comments. I know the Baldivis Shopping Centre reads the comments, so it's important to get that across.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, it also lets them actually work out the value, like rather than treating that charger as a cost center, they can actually attribute some income to it because it's actually a unique person going there specifically for that purpose, as well as shopping. So they can actually write down, they can assure themselves that it's not all a one-way direction of an expense. There is actually a benefit to their tenants.
I would actually argue that that'd be a positive return on the investment. There are some studies showing that EV drivers who are charging stay longer than the average person in the shopping centre. The longer you stay, the more likely you are to buy.
Yeah.
But I've noticed with my habits, and yeah, exactly. I don't shop at our local shopping centre anymore. I shop at the big Joondalup shops because that's where I can charge the car.
Good point.
My local shopping centre has missed out, and and I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years now. So over that period of time, it would add up to quite a bit.
You did right, Pete, because I've actually found myself doing something that would only take a little bit of time, going, well, what else can I do while I'm here? And I go, I'll go to Big W and look for some jeans. And, whether I was successful or not didn't really matter. But the point was, I went and did, went to the effort to do something extra. And it's right. It's actually the tenants that benefit, which then of course benefits the head lessor who's paying for it. Because
We've spent nothing on supercharging at Eton and spent hundreds of dollars in all of the shops at Eton, which
Yes.
I didn't even know existed until the supercharger was there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
do you know why we've got a car collection of about 100 Hot Wheels Teslas?
Go on.
Yeah, from going to all the shops when we're charging.
No. Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah. That's how you got them. Brilliant.
Speaking of which, they're looking for a.
I missed that.
Yeah, you can say again, Rob.
Whenever we go charge the car, we always stop into Big W, Coles, Woolworths, whatever, and we end up buying 1 or 2 Tesla Hot Wheel cars. So
because I've looked at Kmart and Target, and there's plenty of the Hot Wheels one, but I've never seen the Tesla ones. I've only ever ordered them on Amazon, and
that's because we've got them all.
Yeah.
We've got Tesla semis. Robin just collects them. She just goes and buys them all the time. Here's the latest one. Whatever colour you want. We've got Model 3s, Roadsters, Model S.
I need a black Model 3. I'll pay you double what you paid for.
Semi-truck.
Black Model 3. Have we got a black Model 3?
You got a semi-truck yet?
I've got 2 semis.
Really? Okay.
I need to get 1 more, and I'm going to paint them up and make a road train.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, genius.
So it'll be Tesla Energy.
Oh,
maybe a
super.
solar panel company.
Right. If that doesn't get Elon Musk's attention for a mega charger network from coast to coast, God damn it, I don't know what will.
What you need to do, Rob, is get the release video, the launch video of the Semi, where they show the platooning.
Yeah.
And actually then just get the 3 trucks themselves and superimpose them on the screen and video that with the actual models following where the video is.
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah.
And then post that. We can even post that on our Twitter, on the club's Twitter, and see where it goes.
That'll be the go. There you go. To you. Just to you, Peter.
Superb.
Made my day.
Do you have a Model 3 in Poverty Pearl White though?
Yes. I've even got the Model X that's got Tesla service on the side.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
That came out about a year ago.
Oh.
So
But no Cybertruck yet.
no Cybertruck. No, that's disappointing.
Very.
Hey, Rob, you need to put a roadster into the back of one of those semis.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah.
There is no Gen 2 roadster, but you could put the old Gen 1 roadster in there.
Yeah. Now, did you guys see the ATV that Rich Rebuilds built?
Oh, yeah. What a legend.
It's just dangerous. It's so
Love it.
fast.
100 miles an hour, he was saying.
Was it?
Yes.
Wow.
So basically what he does, he's got 4 different cogs for the rear, and they're quite easy to change. So you can change the gear ratio. So on the gear ratio that's got a top speed of 68 miles an hour, he can do donuts. Very easy. So it's got high torque. But if he puts on the 4th gear ratio, the highest one, he can get 100. I think he said he can get about 110 miles an hour out of it, which is just dangerous because they're not really big wheels on those things. So if you hit a pothole, that's the end of you.
Mm.
So is that electric, Rob, I presume?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
It's electric. This is interesting. It's he's used a new electric motor. It's an air-cooled motor, but he got the battery out of a motorbike, and he cooked his first one. The video's on YouTube now. He cooked the first one, then he went and bought another one and dropped it, broke it, so he had to go and buy a 3rd one. So the battery was only used half a charge for all the days driving.
Wow.
And he towed his Hummer with it. 5,000 pound Hummer, and he towed
You
it
can
up.
tow a Cybertruck with it.
Yeah, this thing is incredible. This ATV is sensational. So a lot of people are saying, please just give us the blueprints. We'll pay for them.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite a simple, what he's done. He's even put a winch on it. Because it weighs 500 pounds. And he said, if I get it stuck somewhere, I'm in trouble. So he's got a winch underneath.
He's got far too much time on his hands, clearly.
He's a legend.
Actually, he was given a Audi, is it A7, the twin turbo V8. The guy said, he said, if you can fix the leak in my Ferrari, you can have that Audi because I don't use it anymore. It's been sitting in right, and it's got electrical faults all through it, but the actual engine runs beautifully. 39,000 miles on the clock. So his latest video is pulling his car apart and fixing all the electrical problems.
He's an absolute character. I love his sense of humour.
Yeah.
So sarcastic.
Good, yeah.
Yes, yeah, indeed, indeed. And there's no doubt that he won't be having a Cybertruck, no matter what happens.
That he won't be.
That he won't be. He's definitely going to get a Cybertruck.
Oh yes,
You can absolutely tell that for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, there's just no doubt. So have you guys seen the latest progress at the Terrafactory? They're actually putting in piles. They're progressing greatly.
Which one's the Terrafactory?
That's the Texas.
Really, I haven't actually seen any progress on that. Really, the last.
There's a YouTuber called Jeff Roberts. There's two actually. I think one's called Terrafactory Texas.
Yeah,
yes, Terrafactory Texas, and the other one is Jeff Roberts. And I mean, I know Jeff Roberts, for example. He does a video every day, every single day.
Wow.
So, but he's backed by lots of Patreon supporters, so I guess for him it's kind of becoming a full-time thing.
Yeah.
And basically they've almost finished leveling the entire ground. I'll just bring it up very quickly. Once that expands out. They've actually got a whole lot of piling equipment. So so what they're actually doing is they're drilling boreholes and taking out the whatever it is, compacted sand or something. And they've got this, I think it must be like a quartz type aggregate. And what they actually do is they get little bobcats to pour, once they drill the hole, they pour the aggregate down the hole and then compact it with these pile drivers. So they're not actually leaving steel piles in the ground. They're actually just compacting columns of aggregate.
Right. Okay.
Which apparently is one method of stabilizing that ground.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Foundations, which is different to what I think they did at Gigafactory, the original one, and different to Germany and Shanghai. But basically, the site, the number of trucks, I think you can see it about there. They have these trucks coming in. There's just continuous lines, and they're effectively filling up this this artificial lake. And the amount of these, I forget what they call it, belly loaders or belly something. They basically just pour the sand just pours out the bottom, and there are literally uncountable lines of these all over the place. Depending on which part of the video you get, it's just an amazing line of trucks just feeding it. There's a line snaking there now. You know, it's just ridiculous the amount of effort they're going into preparing this thing. And as you've seen in the German Gigafactory Berlin, they've got the roof on the battery train, the drivetrain building, and they're also doing part of the General Assembly, I think it is, or no, Body in White. They're putting roofing on that now as well. And also the paint shop is getting a concrete roof, which I think that's about 3 levels. Well, it's quite tall. So Tesla are just doing amazing progress. And obviously we want the
multiple fronts.
Sorry, say again?
On multiple fronts, like it's just nuts in the middle of a global pandemic.
And Shanghai, actually what I did the other day is I made a prediction for Gigafactory Berlin. I think I said they were going to produce their first Model Y on the 15th of January, I think it was, if that's a Friday.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
I just kind of pegged my nail to that post. Yes, I said, I think it's first production Friday, the 15th of January, 2021.
Okay.
And
I actually thought it'd be sooner than that, but fair enough.
Oh, I thought I'd let it slip a little bit, you know. I'd be a bit pessimistic.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's hope they do it in sooner. You know, Shanghai, they broke ground in January 2019, and the first car rolled off in November at the latest, I think it was.
I think it was October. I think it was
or
10
October.
months. Yeah.
So, you know, that's 10 months, you know.
Amazing.
Regardless of how rough it might have been built, the fact that you can get anything out of a building that quick and build it at the same time.
I'm just so hoping that all the Model Ys for Australia come from China, like for build quality, for speed.
I actually think there's a hot rumor that that's going to happen, just quietly.
Right. Okay. Okay.
I think
Cool.
there's a compelling rumor that that is going to happen, and it makes just so much sense.
Oh, I think it really does. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, it just makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that's a hot rumor.
What would be your guys' best prediction as to when you think we might see Model Ys in Australia?
Before June next year.
Yeah, I was going to say mid next year.
Really, that early?
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, because they should be. Look, put it this way: if they went from swamp to the first Model 3s in October, from January, in 10 months from swamp to Model 3, given that they know how to do the Model Y, and it's really very common with the Model 3 anyway, they really started that in earnest in about February, the Model Y plant. So let's call it November. If they keep the same slow pace or fast pace, whatever you want to call it, as the first factory, and they're better at it, the only issue is the right-hand drive version. But one thing we don't know is, does anyone know if Tesla has produced any right-hand drive Model 3s for Hong Kong? Which is,
yeah.
No one cares, as in no one in the North American hemisphere cares, and Europe doesn't care. But
when I was there at the beginning of January this year, there were a massive number of Teslas driving around that were all right-hand drive. So I don't know where they got them from. But
in Hong Kong?
In Hong Kong. There were huge numbers.
Did you see any Model 3s?
Yeah, Model
Y, you mean?
No, not Model Y. We saw Model S's and 3s in January, but no Model Ys.
So the 3s, could have been imported because obviously, you know, China, they were importing 3s into China from Fremont until they were displaced. In fact, I think they're still doing the performance ones are still Fremont based.
That's right. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
so.
correct.
I guess the crux of it, I mean, we all know from Sandy Munro's YouTube videos that, you know, you see the actual subframe and it's so easy. You know, it's built for left and right hand drive versions. It's completely built for it in all the stamping, so that's easy to do. It's just that, as we know, the Model 3 in Australia took some time since the Model 3 was first launched in the States. But then again, that was a brand new process for Tesla, whereas the Model Y is really just a slight a modification of the Model 3. So
yeah, as I said, we saw a lot of 3s, S's and X's in Hong Kong when we were there in January.
Yeah.
We were astounded how many. I mean, it wasn't just, oh, look, there's a Tesla. It's, look, oh, there goes 3 Teslas, followed by another 4.
Excellent. That's what we like.
Did you see any Teslas in Hong Kong that weren't black?
I don't think any of them were actually black. I think they were mostly whites and silvers and so on.
They love their black cars in Hong Kong.
Do they really? Because all the ones in China all seem to be white.
Yeah, all the Mercedes seemed to be black, and they were interspersed with the Teslas. That was about it.
Someone's got some money. Why would you have a car in Hong Kong? Like, it's just
because they've got so much money, you don't know what.
Yeah,
to
you've got to
and
put
it's
it
a
on
status
something.
symbol.
It's interesting. When they were selling the Model S in Hong Kong, the taxes were far lower on a Tesla Model S than they were on a Mercedes. So Tesla's sales there were massive. Then obviously from pressure from Mercedes and Audi and that, the Hong Kong government changed the tax laws. So I think basically if you paid, say, the equivalent of $100,000 for a Model S, you didn't have to pay the equivalent of $100,000 in tax on top of it, like a Mercedes. So that was a real big advantage to Tesla, but now they've changed those laws and the advantage is not as big now. I think you still have to pay quite a bit of tax on the S now.
Yeah, I know that the demand fell off a cliff once it changed.
Yeah. That was about March 2018, I think they changed that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because what I understand was
20? 19?
Tesla actually brought a heap of cars in and registered them. And then, so once the tax came through, then they already registered for the roads.
Yep. I think the Netherlands had a similar thing. I remember going through there on the way to Denmark last year, and there were a lot of the nose cone Teslas, but not the facelift ones. And it was basically because some incentive had changed, and whereas the nose cones were sort of like screaming bargains, the newer cars were less so. So there was a bit of an overhang of the older cars until the Model 3s arrived. And then, of course, the sales took off again. Which just goes to show that, you know, incentives really are very, very effective if they're well targeted.
Okay, I've just had a look on the Hong Kong Tesla forum, and there's no mention of Model Ys. So,
Oh no Model Ys, but do they have Model 3s that are Chinese built?
oh, okay, sorry.
Because that's the crux. Because if it can be shown that Shanghai has produced right-hand drive 3s, then it means they will absolutely produce right-hand drive Ys, and that just nails it, because Fremont is too busy building Ys for North America. So
Yeah, and
they're
it
not going to
saves,
want to.
saves transport as well.
Oh, of course, yes, absolutely. Yep. And we have an FTA with China, so there's the same advantage. There's no disadvantage, and it's all freight. And then it's just a matter of which batteries they put, but they'll probably have different pack versions for different markets. You know, because they're doing a deal with CATL for the pouch LFPs. Yeah, the lithium iron phosphate batteries.
Yeah, that's right.
Which we might hear about on Battery Day in 28 Sleeps.
Yeah.
I'm ever ready for Battery Day.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Rob.
Cool. So if there's nothing much else, we maybe call it a night. What do you reckon, fellas?
Oh, I bought my first share of Tesla stock at $2,000 US.
Oh,
Must be mad.
I think it's gone up to 2,300 now, is it?
No,
no.
not at all.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
I
opened
think
up
it's
another
pretty much around the
1%.
same, I think.
It's
It's
gone
opened up another $60 high.
Yeah, as we speak, it's $2,060 on the nose. And of course, everyone wants Tesla to be, they want Tesla on Friday to be $2,103.45 precisely. Or they want it to open at the equivalent of that on the Monday.
Okay.
Because of course that means it would open at $420.69.
Is that after the split, is it?
Yes. So the shares, the record date's already passed. That was last Friday, I think, which actually was immaterial because all it means is anyone that, well, it doesn't matter if you buy shares right now, stapled to those shares are the 4 additional shares
Okay.
which actually get released, so to speak, on Friday, and then they actually trade. It's probably after trade on Friday, actually, come to think of it, unless they suspend trading on Friday, but they probably won't. And then they'll open at their 1/5 effective price, which will be roughly $400 since they're about 2,000 at the moment. So those shares that looked expensive a couple of months ago at $1,000, that's kind of like a bit of a bargain at the moment. So it's a wonderful thing. And many analysts are saying, well, you know, I mean, ARK Invest is still talking about the 7,000 at today's ratio. And many other analysts, they build a base case on $1,900 and go upwards from there. And some of those analysts, I think from memory, are presuming the $1,900 base case at 1.3 million cars produced in 2025. And the fact is that Tesla may be at that run rate as little as the end of next year, or maybe 2022 at the latest. So go and work that out.
And Harold, that $7,000 target from ARK Invest, which is a 5-year target, that target doesn't incorporate any robo-taxi revenue. So that's not baked into the base case. And they also assume a constant market share of, I think it was 26% or 23%. So, I mean, that market share has been rising over the last 2 or 3 years, but they're just assuming it's just going to flatten out at that level. And that gets them to $7,000 in 5 years. So,
yeah. And
that's not the bull case, that's just their base case. So.
And that's a great thing. It's, you know, it's great to actually discount the automation altogether and just say, look, it's risky. It's going to be a long-term thing but that's just the icing on top of the cake. I mean, that will transform Tesla's value. But if they just keep expanding these factories, I mean, what other car company on this earth has 3 brand new factories being constructed as we speak?
No one.
As opposed to several factories being deconstructed. You know?
Yeah, in the middle of Corona.
I know, it's just, I mean, I just hope that, I don't know, that the demand, no, sorry, not the demand, that just people's ability to buy them doesn't drop off.
Well, except for S and X, Model 3 and Model Y is just increasing in demand.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing that some analysts will say, even Rob Mauer says, you know, Tesla's nameplate capacity is, I forget, it's over 500,000 now, but it does state that S and X capacity is 90,000, but they're not actually selling 90,000 annually. They're selling about 66 or so.
Okay, yeah.
Still discount that by a little bit.
I mean, I guess with that, people are waiting for Plaid, you know, for the
that
announcement. So Why would you buy one now until you know what's coming?
And 28 sleeps, that might
There's
be
a lot
it,
of warning going
Yeah.
on.
you know, because that's absolutely logical to say that these are these super batteries and they're in this, oh, and by the way, they're in this car as we speak.
With a 200 kilowatt hour pack. Come on.
Oh.
The other thing that's really important in this is the Volkswagen's inability to get their ID3 on the road.
Yeah.
properly. This,
I know.
They've built thousands of these cars, and they're sitting there waiting to go to customers, and they just cannot fix the software issue. And it's
Terrible. Yeah.
yeah. Now,
They have hundreds of employees freely using these cars to try and give continuous feedback. And apparently the number of faults they're generating or reports of faults is just overwhelming. And they just don't know what to do.
yeah. What they've done is they've put a propaganda video out yesterday. Did you see it?
No.
No. What was in
Yeah.
it?
Got to listen to this. Now, there's a guy in Germany that's a range expert. He's very good at getting the best out of an electric car. Now, his real name is E-Golf. It's just a coincidence.
You couldn't make it up.
Yeah, but he's driven cars for Mitsubishi and Ford and that. And what he did was he took the ID3 from the factory in Germany into Switzerland, and he got 530 kilometers range out of the car, which was 110 more than the WLTP. Now the thing is, his average speed was 53 kilometers, and he was sitting behind trucks and all that sort of stuff. Now, you know, I could have done that. So it was a propaganda video to say, oh no, we've got, our cars have got really good range. No, they have a problem with their software, and they can't get the range out of the car. Now, Tesla have got this sorted. The Hyundai have got this sorted with their Kona and the Ioniq.
Yeah, true.
Renault Zoe have not got this sorted. They've got a problem. Porsche Taycan have not got this sorted. This is a major thing. This is what really takes Tesla in front of the others. That their computer systems can make these micro adjustments consistently, so you can get the best range out of the car.
Because they've got the best software engineers, or because Elon, they've just got, well, who wants to go and work for, you know, VW when you can go work for Tesla as a software engineer? Yeah. I mean, maybe you would. I mean, look, yeah, they must have some, like, you know, obviously, but
it proves it's not just about connecting an electric motor to a battery to a controller. There's so much more involved.
And it proves that you can't afford to be a component assembler. You can't afford to outsource all your components as subsystems, which have been designed separately without full integration, and then try and just attach them together.
That's correct.
And then try and
but it also shows that you can't just throw money at the problem. You have to be smart about hiring the right people. It's one of those problems, you know, you could go, well, surely we'll just hire the right people by offering the most amount of money. You know, people don't go and work at SpaceX because, you know, they think, oh, I'm going to make a fortune here.
Yeah. You can also imagine it's a similar situation with Apple, who, you know, we spoke about before, where they became the world's first $1 trillion company. And everyone thought, well, that was a mountain that they climb and they'd never they might touch it and then, you know, fall back. Well, they've just blasted through the $2 billion mark. And I mean, as we speak now, no doubt they're probably...
with the pandemic, everyone's investing in tech stock.
They're $2.164 trillion.
Far out.
You know, they're just printing money like that, you know. But Apple is similar. It's a similar thing.
Very similar.
Whereby they design their own chips, whereas before that used to be outsourced. But they do it in-house, and they can afford to pay for the best engineers and designers who are naturally attracted to that black hole of attractiveness of innovation. And so is Tesla. I mean, how many shareholder earnings calls do you have? What has anyone ever heard of an earnings call where the CEO goes, oh, by the way, if you're an expert in this and this, and this, we want to hire you. What was a hire? They weren't answering questions about the share price or about their earnings or whatever. they were asking for people to come and work for them.
Mm.
You know, because no one cares about the results because, well, you know, they're so good and remarkable that it's kind of irrelevant now. It's just how many more people can we get to build this thing as fast as possible.
Mm.
And in all those in all those surveys where they ask graduates what would be their most ideal place to work, SpaceX and Tesla are always number one or number two.
Mm. I mean, you just can't buy that kind of talent.
Every SpaceX video, when you see a launch, at the end of it, they say, so if you want to join us, you know, please contact us to work for us. You don't see that on ULA or NASA or anything else. You just don't see that.
Would have been like NASA was in the 1960s.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yep.
Here's a thing that you guys would be interested in. Same sort of stuff. There's a new series on Netflix about the history of video games.
Oh yeah.
It came up last week, and it's maybe 6-part series, and that starts off with Space Invaders, of course.
Of course.
And it goes through the history of video games, and it's actually really, really good because
that is right up my alley.
Yeah. In the first episode, they talk about these uni students that develop a chip to make the games harder, and because they worked out that the revenue was dropping each week because people learnt the game, so they didn't put as many 20-cent pieces in. So they were making boards to put into the Atari games to make the games harder. And then Atari turned around and said, well, we're going to sue you. And it was like, well, but we're making the games harder, so more people will buy we're talking about the games you put into milk lunch bars and stuff. So these young guys ended up never graduated from uni. They ended up went to work for Atari.
Okay, what's it called? The show?
I just can't remember. Look it up. It's on Netflix. I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came up on Friday. It came up as one of the new series.
So would it be called something like video games? If we search for video games, it should come up.
I'll just search for it.
Yeah. Because I actually remember playing Space Invaders in black and white, of course, and I think some consoles had like a bit of cellophane or whatever, like a color filter over the top part when the space thing would go and drop the extra bombs or whatever. Does anyone remember at Perth Airport there used to be a car racing game where it had a longer screen with a steering wheel. It was a stand-up console, and it was at the actual terminal at Perth Airport. And it was one of those Formula One games where the cars would sort of come down and you'd have to basically dodge them. That was sort of back in the 70s, which is most of our vintage.
The first game was the tennis one, the very simple tennis game.
Pong.
Yeah.
Pong, yeah. And they had that used to be in the Northbridge Hotel. So that was, that was the first game. But Space Invaders was massive. It was. They run out of coins in Japan.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Do you know, bit of trivia for you, the first ever computer game was written on, it was an oscilloscope. And these guys worked it was actually, oh God, I'm trying to remember the story now. It was these guys that were using this oscilloscope in a lab worked out that they could, they actually wrote what was the first game, and they had it was a round screen, and it was a space game, and they had the point in the middle as kind of like a black hole that you had to avoid, but so that there would be a gravity that would pull your ship like towards it. And it was, I think it was actually a 2-player game. You could fire again, towards each other, and obviously whoever got, shot, died, lost. But you had to avoid the black hole in the middle. So
that sounds like the precursor to the Vectrex sort of games, which might have been some of the earliest.
You mean like the VIC-20? Is that what you mean? Like
Vectrex, which is a vector, a bit like a crow. It's one electron beam. It wouldn't do a raster. It would actually point out various objects. So they're like asteroids. I think asteroids is one of the vectors.
Yeah, okay. You might know. Yeah, that sounds like what they what I remember seeing in the documentary.
Yeah. The video game's a classic. I mean, my favourite's Gyrus, but that's just me. I remember playing that at Ice World in Mirrabooka, ad nauseum, until you get to all the way, and then it would actually lap because you get to. Oh, no, it wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Sorry, it would lap. But once you got to 1,000,000 or 999,995, it would go to 0, and that would no longer be the high score. So you had to try and die. And of course, as you died, if you hit a ship, you get points. But if you hit an asteroid, you wouldn't. So you'd have to try and hit, or a meteor. So you'd have to try and hit that and die just at 999,995.
Brilliant.
And then they'd turn it off at night time and you'd lose a high score.
Yeah.
The documentary is called High Score.
High Score, that's it.
Oh, high score, right.
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna write that down.
right at the start, it's got the guy, the Japanese guy that invented Space Invaders. He's still alive, and he's got his book
Really?
where he did the drawings.
Is that Kenobi? Is it
His name.
Kenobi or something like that? I think that's one of the Japanese sounding game producers.
He looks like he's in his 80s.
Konami, do you mean?
Or Konami, yeah, something like that. Con something, yeah.
Konami,
Yeah.
Konami Games is a thing.
Yeah, cool. Cool.
Check it out on Netflix, yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. All righty. Well, hey.
I hear you buggers are a bit cool down there.
Where are you?
Where are you, Peter?
On Cocos Island.
Oh.
How lovely.
So what's the daily
man.
weather for you in sunny Cocos Island? Must be about 32?
Yeah, 29, 30, thereabouts. Sea temperature's about 27, 26.
Oh, beautiful.
Nice.
It is.
Wouldn't need me a dry suit then.
Nice.
Pardon me?
I wouldn't need my dry suit then.
You wouldn't need any suit at all. Just, yeah.
No. Paradise, it really is.
Earlier this evening, we were talking about Coolin, Peter, and it's moved to the 10th of October.
Oh.
So just letting you know.
I'm going on a fishing charter on the Montebello's around about then. I'll have to have a check and see when it is. When October 10, 11, is it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
You can't go to Montebello, it's radioactive.
But it's already paid for. It cost me a bloody fortune.
No doubt.
Now, there's something on in a week or so too, is there not?
No. Wednesday the
2nd. Next week.
Next week, Wednesday, at the Canfields.
Camfield, yes.
Yeah, when's that?
Next week. Sorry, in a week's time. So we won't have this Ask Us Anything next week. Well, we will.
Next Wednesday.
It'll be mano a mano.
It'll be in the flesh.
And a womano, whatever the Latin equivalent of that is. Yeah, in the flesh next week at the Camfield on the 2nd, Wednesday evening.
Okay. Because I fly back Tuesday night, so that'll work.
Yeah, cool.
In the afternoon, is it? It'll be an email or something?
I think it's 6 p.m.-ish or 6:30. It's the same time as our normal evening ones, which that time escapes me right now, but it's in the early evening at the Camfield, because basically parking is a nightmare on a Sunday. Or in fact, the Camfield is a nightmare on a regular Sunday. So we've reserved that one for the Wednesday night casual meetups. But yeah, so basically I'll be sending out an email saying that the Ask Us Anything is not on Zoom, but effectively in person. And then the month after that is the Como car show. Which is roughly the second-ish as well of, the 4th of October. at the Como, at Wesley College. I presume it's at Wesley College. So there you go.
Yep. Good.
So any fishing?
I'll check my October date because I really would like to go to Coolin.
Yeah. Well, if it works out, if it's not the same time as your fishing, then that's cool. And if it doesn't work out, don't worry, because we'll be doing more, things like that. Similar distance overnight stays, basically. So yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we were discussing a bit earlier that Lake Grace is going to get its fast DC charger in the next few weeks, which is a great route towards Esperance and Ravensthorpe, obviously, but Esperance if you go a bit slower or do a top up at Ravensthorpe. So we might even Yep.
Go on.
No, you go, Pete.
No, I was going to say, I was reading somewhere yesterday or the day before about the Model 3 with a 100 kilowatt battery. Is that figment of someone's imagination?
That was because someone see like a 100 kilowatt hour label on a battery pack that was being tested in a Model 3 or something, but it turned out that it wasn't as they thought. That was a month or two ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Very Green, or was it Jason Hughes? I think it might have been Very Green who, inverted commas, routed the car to check what was happening inside, and it turns out it was a furphy. It wasn't actually what they thought. Sadly so.
Yeah, you had to come out and say, "Look, I'm really sorry."
What's the capacity of the LR? Is that 75 kilowatt hours?
It was.
Yeah.
72 usable out of 75, roughly, I think.
Look, you could imagine they could gain. What do you reckon? Maybe get to a 90, perhaps, with the different packs or the higher density, perhaps. 100 might be a bit of a stretch. That's a big gain. That's sort of 30%. Or even a bit more.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, that's a big gain.
But if you get the 4070 batteries, you can get a higher density because you can fit more in instead of using the 2270s or whatever.
2170s, yeah.
2170s. You actually get more in there, apparently. I haven't done the maths myself, but you can therefore, I think, fit a little bit more of a kilowattage in there. It's about 25%, I think.
Apparently, it doesn't actually. The size of the battery makes no difference to the packing density per se, because I did actually look that up many months ago. But the gain you get in the larger pack or the larger cell size is the lack of the packaging volume. Because
it's only got one wrapper instead of several.
It's only got one perimeter of 0.5 millimeter stainless, whatever it is, steel around it, rather than 50 lots of the same sort of thing. So you have less packaging materials and other things on the larger cells. Because I guess in extremis, you could have one cell, if it's a square box, that is the diameter of the length of the box, and to have one huge cell, and that would probably have the same area as any other number of broken up circumferences of cells, but you gain in the lack of packaging or the reduced packaging. And as we discussed earlier,
the downside is if you have, like, by having 4,000 something or other cells, if a few of them bugger up, it doesn't really make a big difference. But if you have one big cell that shits itself, then you're in much bigger trouble.
That's true.
Also, I think for like if you're going for something like a Model S or X, performance ludicrous mode, you're actually, in my mind, I see that you'd want to draw the maximum amount of voltage from as many cells as you could, not just a few. So unless I've got that wrong.
No, yes, you're right. Except
That's true.
the new innovation that they're bringing with the, if it is correct, with the 4070 cells, is they're tabless.
Yeah.
whereby-
So does
so
that
all the
play a
power
part
goes
into
from
that?
from the center to the edge
Yes.
on one side, and from their center to the edge on the bottom side on the other side of the foil or the other side of the cell, rather than having to spiral all the way out to the end. Or all
So,
the way
so does
into the center.
does that get around that benefit of having a greater number of individual cells then?
Yes, well, it reduces the effective internal resistance of the battery, because
Yes.
when the electrons have to go through all that metal in a spiral,
Yep.
they get dizzy. Well, not really.
I-
But they got
I
to do a
get it.
long, you know, it's that when you unfurl it, I think a 18650 is, it's the best part of a meter. It's at least a meter of
Yeah.
foil that's rolled up. So in effect,
Pretty
on
awesome.
average, the electrons have to travel half a
Half a
meter
Yeah, sure.
in the center. You know, towards the end, they're not much, and towards the other end, they're nearly a meter. So, but if they go tabless, they only have to travel on average 5 millimeters before they get to the anode or cathode or
Yeah.
the connection. So then the bigger cells, it doesn't matter. Obviously, it's not as efficient at cooling them.
Yeah.
Because there's heat.
Yeah.
Heat has to, well, the heat transfers.
But then, as you say, there's less resistance. So
Actually, with the tabs, if you've
Yeah.
got more metal, particularly on the negative side, on the bottom of the battery, you've probably got a fair bit of enhanced heat transfer too. So, you know, and the heat transfer is really only during high speed charging, because really when you're gunning it, you're not really pushing that much energy. You know, how long?
True. Yeah, you're not using. Well, you're not. Well, I don't know actually.
Like how long can you sustain 200 kilowatts before you exceed the speed limit?
I'll try for all.
I mean,
the Autobahn was a lot of fun.
well, see, even on the Autobahn, I remember getting to 250 k's an hour, which is its 253, I think is its maximum. And it was only because I had a bit of power limit, and I was I was limping and doing 200 k's an hour in power restricted mode. And I think I was using 150 kilowatts, roughly.
Yeah, right.
To maintain 200.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's not, you don't need that much. You need the energy to accelerate, obviously. But to maintain, I think it was about 150 kilowatts continuous. Because don't forget, our cars are used to doing about 22 kilowatts at 100. So if you think about it, 150 is a lot of continuous energy.
Yeah, you're going up to but yeah.
You know, but anyway, you know, it's one of those things. It's all about the energy. But that's where those batteries, the larger cells, they've got that huge advantage where you don't have to. You're right. If you pop one, and I think one of the challenges they did say was, how do you fuse these batteries? Because the fusible link will have to be a lot thicker, but still frangible, so that if it did fail, it would fail safely. But you know, that's 28 sleeps away. So
yes, cannot wait.
Well, what's the share price doing?
Share price. I got just part of those broken communication, and the share price is $2,105.50.
Holy shit!
Says he, trying not to smile too much.
It's gone up a little bit in the last hour.
The all-time high is 21.29, I think. So it's only about 20 points from the all-time high. So you're making money already, Richard?
Yeah, but my offset isn't.
See, that's if you divide by 5, that's $421. That's actually a bit too high. Yeah.
Well, the only reason I bought a share at that price was because I thought, geez, I don't want to go up too much more before the stock split. But you know. And
you're not into the S&P 500 yet, so we haven't even got that little bit of boost either.
Yeah.
So,
So
who knows?
basically, sorry, Harold. So basically, if I bought one on Monday, I'd be paying about what 400 and something, is it per share or
US.
US?
Don't
Yes,
forget. So you're going to divide that by 0.71 probably, because they rip you. You get the arbitrage.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So the Aussie dollar, I believe, was hovering at about 72 cents on the nose, roughly. So you'd be paying let's say 421 and 0.7 divide $600 roughly.
Okay.
And like we said before, the quickest way to buy shares is you just use your ComSec, NABSec, discount brokery, what's the name?
Yeah.
And just apply for international trading, and it's just a bit of a form, and it's done fairly quickly. But if you've got time, like Jason mentioned last week, you can go through a full service broker and actually go to the trouble of getting the shares properly transferred in your name, if that floats your boat.
I actually went through an app called Stake, which a mate of mine recommended. So yeah, that I went through that. Yeah, you've got.
I think they don't charge any brokerage still for Australian clients. Is that right?
There was some fees. I think the fees ended up being about $80. But I did use my credit card as well, so that included that.
Oh wow, well that could be most of the charge then,
Mm.
because you're paying at least 1% or 2% on the credit card transaction.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. So you bought a share or two? You got
Bought a share.
Awesome. Well, that's okay. That actually qualifies. If in a parallel universe we could fly to the States, you could enter into the. Oh no, you couldn't, because you had to have them by July.
And not only that,
ballot.
not only that, through Stake, I'm not sure if you actually have the shares in your own name or if it's.
I don't think it will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was weird, because I don't know what I'm doing with shares. So I did like I can't remember. There was like options of a limit order and a market order. I'm like, well, said the market order was the quickest, so I did that. And you have to put in sort of exactly how much you want to put in, and I put in just what the share was. But I've got says I've got like 1.0013 shares. I'm like, okay, so.
Because Stake does fractional shares.
Yeah, so I guess you could put in whatever you want, really, and yeah,
cool.
You could have a fractional share, which I didn't quite realise at the time, but that's fine.
We could explain how to buy shares now, but we might leave that for another session, because that'll be useful for other people as well.
Mm.
Yeah, and Pete, you're the full bottle. You could just do the whole presentation for us on bid, offer
at the Camfield,
at market. No, we won't do it at Camfield. We're going to record it for posterity, so that those in the future who have insomnia, and when the share price, when the Tesla share price regains $1,000 each in the future.
Yes.
And imagine what a sweet day that'll be.
I must admit, I did think, well, psychologically, we've already got to 2,000 US. So if all those shares, the 5 shares, then, divide by 5, people will go, well, it's already reached 2,000 US in the past. So psychologically, why can't it do it again?
Well, the good thing is, when you look at historical share price, is it right, Pete, that Apple has split before?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happens to the chart? So if you pull up a chart, and let's say they've split and they've opened at 420.69, and they go up 20%. So then it will show that they've gone to 500. So that split is basically baked into the chart, if that makes sense. So the charts adjust for the splits.
Yeah. So the IPO, I think they were $17
Correct.
from memory. So the IPO will then show, if you look at the all-time historical chart, it'll show the minimum price, or at least the opening price was $3.40, because it'll normalize to the current split. So when I mentioned last week that had you bought $10,000 worth of Apple on a certain day in 2002, when they were roughly $1, those shares might not have actually been that dollar. They might have been $10 or something, and they've probably split once or twice since 2002. But the charts are always consistent. So you don't really want to memorize what the dollar value was. You want to memorize what the relative dollar value was. So the charts will forget, you know, that Tesla used to languish at $300. They'll say it used to languish at $80 or whatever. But it makes sense when you look at the chart because it'll still be the same ratios, just normalized. But yeah, Pete will do a share, how to buy and what the terms, like you say, Richard, if you have a market, which is usually okay, that's not that bad. And you've got different types of ordering, you know, but the discount brokers, usually they just want a price and you'll just put a bid, which you usually put lower than the market. So you hope that the price will momentarily, and it can literally be milliseconds, dip. And as long as you're the next cab off the rank, it will literally be done. But yeah.
Okay. So that's what a limit order is then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, market order just means, so you have your bids, let's say on the left-hand side, so which is your people wanting to buy. And then you have your offers on the right-hand side, which is people wanting to sell. When you do a market order, you're paying across the spread, which means that you're hitting the offer. So you're buying from the lowest offered price.
Yeah.
Rather than
Okay.
lining up with the other buyers. You're skipping all the buyers and going straight to the lowest price seller.
Because I think I did that, and I put in what the share price was, and it just sat there doing nothing for a while. And I thought, okay. So then I cancelled that and then did a market order.
So when you
straight away.
So when you put your price in at the, so when you say whatever the price was, so that could have been the last traded price. Or it could be the bid, or it could be the offer, or it could be an average between the two sometimes even. But yeah, even if you put in the price at the bid, it doesn't mean that you'll get necessarily filled straight away, because you'll go to the bottom of all those bids at that price. Because
right.
The last one. So
okay.
So priority.
So that they'll all get fulfilled first before mine will.
Yes, you're at the bottom of that line.
Price and then by time.
Okay. Yep.
But if you put in a bid that matched the offer and was for less number of shares than the offer, you'll get it instantly, provided no one literally just got in front of you, but you'll get that straight away. But if there was only one share being offered at a certain cheapest price and you wanted to buy 10 shares, what happens is you actually get the one share, and then the rest of your bid sits there until someone else who was prepared to sell it for a higher price, or someone else comes in and meets your price. So sometimes, ironically, you can actually just get a share, and the rest of your order is just sitting there. Well, if the share price then increases, it sits there forever, and you miss out. Is it at the end of? I think it's at the end of the session that then becomes the brokerage. Like they just settle it at the end of that day, and you end up with one whole share, which could be worth less than the brokerage if you've got a minimum brokerage type setup. Not Tesla, of course, because they're so expensive, but other shares.
Yeah. Okay.
But actually, I shouldn't be talking about that because we should be doing the next session. But we'll do a comprehensive. Actually, we might do a special Ask Us Anything about shares, which would be good for the lead up for the split anyway. So, well, the split would have occurred, and then we can do a pro thing. So let's do that. So, hey guys, it's past 10.
How did that happen?
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. So,
it's only 8:45.
Well, you're behind the times. You're behind the times, Peter. Trust us, 10 o'clock goes through pretty smoothly. It's no problem. Everything's good. On that note, guys, So I was going to say, on that note, we might leave it there, and yeah, have a good week. We'll look forward to seeing most of you at the Camfield next week.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Have a good night. See you
Yeah, I
guys.
hope to be there.
Take care, everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
See y'all. Have a
You're the
day.
fishing, Richard. See ya.
Ciao.